bro history. It's Henry Zamota and Danny Abdeljabbar. What's up, man? How are you?
I'm good, man. Chilling as per usual. I just accidentally clicked the wrong button when I went to go into this. So like about 10 seconds of your intro for the live stream is that clip from last week, but it's all good. It's running smoothly in the background. So
Okay. I don't know what that means.
it means nothing.
I don't listen to hip hop. So we just finished. I think this episode is going to be not as long as our normal episodes because it's late. It's about 10:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we had just finished watching the presidential debates. So I guess we're going to talk about that, the Hunter Biden situation, and I guess whatever else comes to mind between now and the next hour. But first things first, what was your initial impact, or what was your initial, not impact, what was your initial take from the debates?
Man, well, first and foremost, I really enjoyed this one, like thoroughly, actually. And I think maybe it's because of the utterly abysmally low bar that first debate set. This debate felt like two geniuses in the room talking to each other, because honestly, it was great. I think the mute button only happened once on Trump, and he shut up immediately, and everything was cool.
I don't think it happened once.
I honestly, I think it did happen. I was watching this, and a few of the folks on Patreon, on our Patreon Slack there, also caught it too. I'm pretty sure it happened once. I'm gonna have to check the timestamp there. But just in general, though, it was like they were actually talking for. I mean, they avoided plenty of questions as per usual, but that's to be expected. But they each got their talking points in. Nobody yelled at each other in ways that was uncommon or out of play. And I still don't think it changed anybody's minds. But it was a hell of a lot more enjoyable than the first one. The first one was fucking stressful. How about you?
So I agree that most likely it didn't change too many minds. I'm not sure if I agree if I liked it more. I kind of enjoyed watching the two old men in a schoolyard confrontation on the first debate. I thought this one was a little boring, to be completely honest. They were talking too much about, or trying to talk about the issues. It's kind of funny because it was the first debate was just such a ridiculous showdown, but this debate, by comparison, seemed like you had Albert Einstein debating like another genius,
fucking Nikola Tesla or some shit.
Yeah. So I guess it was a step up from there. I guess my initial impact, and I'm biased, as we all are, that so here's like the storyline for me with the debates. So the first debate was a Biden win because the bar was set so low and Biden was able to go out and complete a sentence. Then what ended up happening is that since Trump basically was just yelling and screaming the first debate, his bar was set so low on this one, and then he was able to pass that bar.
Okay.
So I think he ended up maybe winning over some people who were just turned off from the first debate. I think that's my initial takeaway. But I mean, policy. I mean, they did speak more about policies. So if someone does care about that type of stuff, I guess there's a little bit more to grab onto. I wrote some notes, so I'll see. Here's what I wrote down that I thought was interesting, and then you can give some feedback.
Yeah.
So first things first. So how would you lead the country to the next stage of coronavirus? Trump said, "We have a vaccine, and the military is going to distribute it."
He also mentioned that it was coming in the next few weeks. He did say that.
Did he say that it was coming within the next few weeks?
Yep, he said that. He said it'll be here in the next few weeks.
I don't understand how there's a vaccine that's ever going to.
It's not. It's not. It was a gaffe on his part, but like it's a fucking dangerous gaffe because he's like promising that that there's going to be a fucking vaccine when there clearly won't be. Not in a few weeks, at least.
I don't think there's ever going to be a vaccine.
Oh no, there will. There
Maybe
will.
in the future. I think there's going to be something like the flu shot, but I
Yeah,
don't think there's going to be like
that's exactly what
it's
the
not gonna
vaccine
to
is.
be like a vaccination you get as a baby, like for
No, 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 no.
smallpox or
So
something like
all
that.
include the flu shot that you get every year is a vaccine, right?
Yeah, I know.
It's
I
just
know what you
against a
mean.
specific strain, and the strains of the flu every year evolve, right? They mutate, and that's why we have to keep getting new ones, right? As opposed to say smallpox, which doesn't mutate nearly as quickly as influenza does. We can get that once and we're good for the rest of your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in that respect, a vaccine will come, but it probably won't be out and distributed in any meaningful way until like well into 2021, in my opinion. But he's saying it's in the next few weeks, which I just think he just fucked up, and then he had to double down on it.
Yeah. Then he said the military was going to distribute the vaccine. I guess that I honestly don't know.
My girlfriend said, "Oh, what are they gonna like fucking helivac it out? Like they're gonna
Yeah.
drop it on like cities and helicopters and shit? Like,
You got good drugs. I may be immune. Who says? It says I'm immune right now. Maybe for the next 4 weeks. Maybe for the next 6 months. Maybe forever.
I guess depending on how you slice it, on how you look at it, on the on a cosmic scale, a vaccine coming out in the next few weeks could also mean in 2021. you know,
What he should have said is that I got the coronavirus and it just made me stronger.
yeah,
I think he
right.
should have said that and then just watched the meltdown from the media. I would have loved that.
Maybe for comedic value, sure, but like not for not for the public
I'm
health
only looking
reasons.
for comedy. I'm only looking for comedy
All right, what
out of
else?
this.
What else you got?
I don't trust either of them to actually be good presidents. So I'm just looking for a comedic showdown of some of the most ridiculous news stories.
What else do you got on the topics though?
So, all right, Biden. All deaths are because of Trump.
Did he really say
Essentially,
that?
he didn't say it.
Or are you
I mean, he's
paraphrasing?
alluded. That's kind of something. I'm paraphrasing
Okay.
it, but he has been alluding that. I mean, that's been a strategy from the DNC, which makes sense. I don't actually blame them for coming up with this strategy because it
This
sticks.
line, right?
But then saying there's be a, I think he alluded to having a national mandate on masks, which
He did, yeah. He
did.
I don't.
He
I don't,
did
I don't
say
think
it. I
he's.
hear
I
him
don't think
wrong.
he specifically said a national mandate on masks, but he did allude to it when he said, "I would highly encourage people to wear masks" or something to that effect. That he said that was like, you can dance around it, but it sounds like a mandate, a mask mandate.
It certainly sounded like a mask mandate, and then saying a national standard on school openings as well.
Yeah, I didn't catch that one. What was that about?
I'm pretty sure he said there needs to be a national standard for school openings
Oh, what, like a plan? Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
or national.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't think that would make that much sense, or at least a lot of people won't see that as making that much sense. From region to region, like someone from Idaho is not going to want the same standards as someone who works for the Department of Education in New York, which is the largest which is the largest.
I hear that. I hear that.
Education
I guess it
bureau
really
in
just
the
depends
country.
on. It just really
Second.
depends on what the plan is, really. Because like if the national mandate was like everybody who goes into class has to wear a mask, then I don't think that region fucking matters. Like that could be universally applied, and I don't think many people would give that much of a lip about it. Well, maybe some, but but if it was something like every school has to have a mandatory maximum of 10 kids per teacher, then that might be difficult on a region by region basis, because where the fuck are you going to get all the teachers, right? So that would be impossible. So it really just depends on what the plan is, but I'm not opposed to having a national plan. There's nothing wrong with a plan. It's just what is in the plan.
National plans scare me. I like regional plans a lot more. So yeah, Biden said no vaccine will most likely be available. He's probably right on that. And then so when it comes to as a counter, Trump keeps on bringing up swine flu, and I don't really think that goes anywhere.
No,
because
it really doesn't.
It doesn't really stick at all. And I
No.
hate Biden. I'm a liberal hater, by the way. Like just to be clear of my bias. Doesn't really do it. I'm like, what?
Yeah, what are you
Like,
talking about?
what are you talking
Like
about? Like,
who?
no one gives a shit about swine flu.
And then he also admits, like, oh yeah, it's not quite as deadly, but like a lot of people got it though. So like if the swine flu was as deadly as coronavirus, we would have been fucked up. And it's like, dude, if the swine flu was as deadly as coronavirus, I'm pretty sure they would have done things a little differently. You know,
Yeah,
like I think the reason why they did the things that they did was based on the assessment of its like, dangerousness. you know, that'd be like saying, I don't know, fucking. I don't even have a good analogy for that. Like, it's just
who's
weird. What?
coaching him on that one? Who's
I don't know.
telling him
It's
to
just
say
weird.
that? See, I don't think he has the. He had way better people coaching him, I think, during the debates when he was going up against Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
I think, losing Mike Flynn was prepping him on foreign policy and stuff like that, and telling him where to strike on that. And I think that helped him a lot in Republican primary and in
Yeah.
Democratic primary. I don't know who he's getting his advice from. I don't
Honestly,
know.
I think it
mean,
might be a little
Steve
bit of
Bannon,
hubris. I think it
I
might
think
be a
it
little bit
might
of
be.
hubris.
I think he's. I think. I don't
He
think
just thinks
he's
he has it
taking
in the
that much
bag.
coaching.
Yeah, I think he thinks he has it in the bag, that he's definitely going to win, that everybody loves him, and that he doesn't need coaching.
It might be. I think honestly, I don't know the contact that he has with Steve Bannon, but I think Steve Bannon definitely helped him a lot as well. I think you're seeing the the effect of not having him on the campaign trail with them. Now he's just defrauding people on walls and stuff like that. But he's also going after Hunter Biden, and he is a sociopath. So he's a terrible person to have on your bad side. But besides Bannon, Biden looked into the camera and said, "Your family is going to die."
Something to that effect, didn't he?
He's like, look around. Your family, like this. Your family. He talks like Dr. Steve Brule, and I feel. You ever watch Dr. Steve Brule on Adult Swim at night? It's John C. Riley, and he pronounces like pizza like pizza, and
Pizza.
I feel bad making fun of him because I have some minor
yeah,
speech
exactly.
problems.
I was
but
just gonna say.
I definitely have some speech problems as well, as probably listeners have picked up on. But I mean, it's funny. Nevertheless, I feel.
I mean,
I
also
feel like
you can
I'm
go there
open to
because like
make fun of it.
you're part of that club, so you can get after him for it.
Your family.
But I mean, he said something to the effect of like, he was like, some of you are going to die. Like he was like,
No, he said, look at your family, look at your aunt, look at your mother, your loved one.
Right.
One of them's gonna die.
Yeah, he did say something to that effect, didn't he? That shit was mad creepy. And I already don't like the fact that he looks at the camera so much. Like, I know the play. He wants to speak directly to the American people. He doesn't want to talk to the moderator, doesn't want to look at Trump and address him, and he just wants to speak directly to the American people. And I'm sure he's being coached very hard to do that, but it fucking creeps me out. Like, I just do not like when he's staring at me the entire time.
He's 78, and I don't blame him for getting, plastic surgery and Botox and stuff. But it looked like he got a fresh dosage of Botox in his face over the past few days.
He got some injects.
Maybe that's what he's been doing since he's been in the Biden bunker. He's been getting some work done on his face because he looked like kind of
plump. He looked
slithery, or like he looked like he just got a
taut.
fresh space pull or something.
Yeah,
like
taut.
That.
He looked taut.
Yeah, he looked.
Whatever, man. I'm not gonna shame him on his beauty, routine. Whatever. I don't give a shit.
I mean, I don't care either. I'm just
because on the flip side, we're looking at Trump and his shitty tan, so it's like,
yeah, just colored orange.
Yeah,
I don't even know why he doesn't look that bad without the orange.
No, he doesn't, and it's just weird. It's just weird. I don't know.
He doesn't look like that.
Again, I'm not going to shame people for what they decide is cool for them. So whatever,
Yeah, so that was a very weird thing when he looked into the camera and said,
"You're gonna die.
You're gonna die." So at one point I was like taking like accurate notes, and then I stopped around this point. I was just like, okay, there's no point. These guys are bumbling fools. So Biden said that Russia, Iran, and China. So it was like a weird thing that happened. The moderator said that Russia, Iran have been meddling within the election,
Mm-hmm.
and what would you do
Right.
in response for that? And
Mm-hmm.
Biden was like that Russia, Iran, and then he's like, and China will pay a price about election meddling.
Right. Right.
Now,
He kind of opened
now,
himself up on
the
there.
good thing that since that report came out about Russia and Iran, meddling or hacking into voter registrations, and I guess Iran was caught sending, or allegedly they
Sending
sent
emails vis-a-vis
emails
a spoofed, thing.
saying that they were
The
the
Proud
Proud
Boys.
Boys intimidating Democratic voters, that
uh,
they were, I guess, giving them some type of threat, and that ended up allegedly being Iran, even though the uh, metadata I read is coming from all over the country, so I'm not entirely convinced it was
well,
Iran.
that's called spoofing, right? So it's where you make it appear that this communication is coming from a different area. Like a simple as an example, a simple VPN could make it look like appear that you are in a different country. Like some people get VPNs for legitimate reasons, that they want to mask where their identity is, because maybe they want to get Netflix from Europe, because they have the cool shows, or whatever. That's one way to do it, where you trick people into believing that you trick the systems into believing that you're actually in Europe when you're not. So spoofing is fairly easy, which is why a lot of the metadata is saying that it's coming from inside this country, but it could also just be trolls inside this country. That's equally possible, that are sending these emails. I definitely don't think it's the Proud Boys. I think that's really stupid.
They wouldn't do that.
Yeah, it's that, like, I'm not a fan of the Proud Boys, and I don't even think they would do something as stupid like that. So it's someone's fucking around. Someone's fucking around for sure.
Well, if Russia and Iran are meddling together, that means they're probably canceling. Their meddling cancels each other out, right? Because Russia would be
How?
meddling in favor of Trump, and then Iran would most likely be meddling in favor of
Well,
Biden, right?
you,
So
you
wouldn't
would
they be
you
canceling
would
each other
think
out?
you would think, but Trump himself said that his people said that they both don't want him to win. That both Russia and Trump don't want him to win because he's hardest on Trump for all the on Russia for all the sanctions, and he's hard
Yeah,
and
he
he's
did
clearly
say.
maximum pressure on
Well,
Iran.
speaking of that, that's interesting that you brought that
Uh
up,
huh.
because he actually went through this phase where he was attacking Biden on, I don't want to say he was attacking them from the um, liberal interventionist left at one point. I don't know. Did you notice that when he said that when Biden brought up the troop bounty, which
Yeah.
the Russian troop bounty,
Uh
which
huh.
um, you and I both, I think came to a mutual agreement on this, thinking that most likely this was not a real thing.
Right.
He was talking about Trump selling tank busters to Ukraine. Did you catch that?
Yeah, I did hear that. He was like, "Yeah, well, I'm selling them weapons. No big deal." Like,
I'm selling a weapons. You only armed the Nazis. I armed them. I mean, it's like you only politically supported them and gave them money. Well, I gave them tank busters.
yeah, it's like, who's
I armed
better?
them. I got like
Whoa,
who
bro.
gave tow missiles?
So I guess since
Um,
we're on foreign governments here, one thing Biden said that I thought was a little crazy was he said, "I have never taken a penny from a foreign government ever," and I'm like, "Whoa!" Fact checkers are going to be all over that statement, and all over the media, right? Like everybody's going to have their own take on this. And I thought that the rest of his answer when he was being asked about foreign intervention and like whether or not he's compromised, I think the rest of it was a very strong answer. But that one specific line, they're Republicans are going to take that line and they're going to be like, Biden said that he's never taken a penny from foreign governments. But what about the 10% of this Chinese energy company that was left over for the big man? Like that's going to be their new super PAC commercial line. They're going to take that line and they're going to run with it. I
Oh,
can see it already.
I have such a good idea for a super PAC commercial,
Oh
or
yeah.
just every single Republican should just get up and say, "I'm a Russian agent," and then like it should go like it should start with like Rand Paul, like "I'm a Russian agent," and then go to Mitch McConnell, "I'm a Russian agent," and then go to
Lindsey
like
Graham.
Crenshaw,
I'm
"I'm
a
a
Ru-
Russian agent."
I'm a li-
I'm a Russian
I'm a Russian
agent.
agent too. Well, oh my, I'm a Russian
Just
agent.
go to every famous Republican and just be like Rudy Giuliani, "I'm a Russian agent."
Yeah.
Um, how
But wait,
you'd
how does
have
that
to
help though? I'm sorry, I must have
because I
missed that
think
point.
because it would be mocking it would be mocking the Russian agent claim from the left. It would be like a
Yeah,
spoof,
yeah, it would
and
be
I
pretty
think
funny in that
that and
respect.
I think it would just be a parody of it, and it would be like laughing at the accusation of like foreign interference and stuff like that. I just think it would be hilarious if they did something like that.
More importantly, the ultra left will melt the fuck down. Like, look,
Dude,
there's
trending
proof. They
topic.
said it.
Yeah,
Like,
that the reaction that you would get, it would just be like the funniest troll in the
yeah,
world. If
yeah.
everyone's like, I'm a it comes from the movie Spartacus. I
Mm,
don't know if they took that from anywhere. You ever see the movie Spartacus? It's about
no.
the uh, Roman slave revolt,
Mm,
and at the end, I'm not the Russians, the Roman
the
soldiers
Russians.
they have won the war against the rebelling slaves, and they're trying to find Spartacus, who's the general,
Mm.
who's leading the rebellion, and they're like, "Who's Spartacus? Where is
I'm
Spartacus?"
Spartacus.
And then he's about to get up and say, "It's what's his name? Kurt Douglas's father. Is it Kurt Douglas, his father, one of the Douglases."
Yeah, you
And
lost me.
everyone gets up and is like, before you can say I'm Spartacus, it's like, I'm Spartacus, I'm Spartacus,
Mm-hmm.
I'm Spartacus. I think that would be the best. If anyone from any position of political influence or in Republican conservative media, this is a golden idea.
Good
Um,
luck getting them all to agree to doing that soundbite, though. No way, I ain't gonna say that. I got an election. This is an
I'm,
election year.
I'm,
I'm being
I'm
outspent here. Please give me $5. I'm Lindsey Graham.
and then at the end, Putin is like on it. I'm a Russian agent. All right, where the fuck was I?
Here's a fun one from the around the same conversation when Trump kept going to Biden. He was like, "You're the big man. I think you're the big man. Maybe I don't know. Maybe you are. Maybe you're not. You're the big man." In reference to how because I feel like he kept trying to find his opening for these, this like laptop email like thing, like when can he jump in? When can he jump in? And I think the moment that he tried the first stab was after Biden had said, I'm never going to take a penny from a foreign government. And like honestly, the optics of Trump calling Biden a big man is not great, at least from from like a machismo perspective, right? You don't want to get caught in a soundbite calling your opponent a big man.
Yeah. Well, I guess most people watching, I wonder if they know that the big man in the emails reference to alleged Joe Biden's alleged equity share
Mm-hmm.
in some dealings
Mm-hmm.
with Chinese companies. Um, I think that most Republicans know that. I'm not sure if most undecided voters know that.
Right, which is
That's the
why
thing.
what makes it weird to say, without that context.
So I watched it. I watched it with my girlfriend,
Mm.
and she's like a good test of what the average person thinks. Like she's not very political. Um, if anything, she's more just like she's a Democrat. She's more on the liberal
Basic
side.
Democrat. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say like she's like a basic Democrat voter, but she's not overly political or anything like that.
Right.
If I had dated somebody who was politically driven, I'd probably have a brain aneurysm, so it wouldn't work out. But she would. I don't think she didn't really know anything about the Hunter Biden stuff or what big man referenced to. Only
Honestly, I,
through
I find
my
that
raving and rantings.
I find that very crazy, honestly, because, I was watching Fox News before the debate because I just wanted to hear what Tucker has to say before this debate because I knew new information came out about this laptop situation with Hunter Biden. And, like, everybody on Fox News is fucking freaking out right now about how nobody's talking about this. And I'm like, yo, we were talking in our Slack in Patreon, and somebody kind of brought up that up as well, and I just like wanted to know, like, who is it true that that no media outlet is talking about this? There's a lot of media, like almost all of the media outlets are talking about it. I found articles on every major media outlet. I found when I was watching like CNN or MSNBC, they talked about it. Now how they talk about it is very different, right? but everybody's talking about it, and I find it really surprising that people don't know what's going on or haven't at least heard this story.
Well, there's so much right now. It's so hard to take in news because we're within 2 weeks of an election, and there's just so much information that's flying, and I don't think people could really keep up with it. And you kind of have to be up to date with the story. You have to kind of be familiar with like the Biden family and the Hunter Biden scandals and Hunter Biden's like Burisma weird deal. So Joe Biden, he responded saying that Hunter did nothing wrong while working at Burisma. Well, that's not the problem if he did anything wrong while working at Burisma. That was never the issue. The corruption was in the actual hiring of him, with no accolades. Like there was no, he was hired with
that's where the nepotism comes. The nepotism is how he got hired. The corruption is whether or not he got money out of it. That's the corruption portion of it. Right.
Well, the corruption portion of it is also that the fact that through nepotism he got this position on the Ukrainian energy company with no experience, no experience, and without any background within Ukraine or background in the energy sector.
Yeah, for sure. I can't even argue against that. But that's nepotism, you know, like
that's nepotism. But nepotism. It goes beyond nepotism, honestly. Like nepotism is, and I'm not saying Trump's not guilty of this with I think especially
with his children,
with especially his son-in-law,
right?
With Jared Kushner on that, but with Hunter Biden, it's like at a very extreme level. Like we're talking about getting paid. Trump said $160,000 a month. What I've heard different numbers. I think I've heard $60,000 a month for his position on this Ukrainian energy board.
All of those numbers are.
But now
different,
the thing is though is that Hunter Biden is a loser. Like that's the best way to. That's the nicest way to say it.
Let's save the Hunter Biden stuff for after because we definitely are going to talk about that. The only thing I will say though about this juncture is that, and this is related to the debate itself, is that when I was watching Fox before the debate for the lulz, a lot of them were questioning whether or not the moderator will even ask him about these new revelations, and they did. So everyone can shut the fuck up about it now.
Well, they didn't ask until I didn't think they were going to ask. It wasn't like the first.
I mean, they asked. They asked.
Of
course, it wasn't the first question because that's weird. Why would it be the first question?
Well,
the most pressing.
The first question.
The first question was
about the tax return during the first debate.
Well, what? No, the first question was about coronavirus in both debates.
Was it?
Yes, in both debates because coronavirus is the first is the top of the mind. The top of the mind issue for everyone right now is coronavirus, and I think it's right to start with coronavirus. So I don't think it should have been the first question either. But 9:36, which is 36 minutes into the program, a 90-minute program, so 1/3 in, they did ask the question. So everybody shut the fuck up about it. They asked them the question. Of course, now I'm going to watch the.
They were forced. They were
forced to or not. They did it. They asked it. Right? Everybody thought that this is like some kind of media blackout, and I heard so many conspiracy theories about how they're just going to ignore it and they're not going to talk about it because the liberal news mainstream media is out to elect Biden and undermine Trump, and it's all right, dude, come on.
The question they should have asked. Because they gave him an opening to say. Oh, this is just a Russian disinformation campaign.
Right. I mean, I don't think anyone doubted. I don't think anyone doubted that was going to be the response from the Biden campaign. But
what should have been the question, if you were actually going to be fair and hard and give him a tough one, was would have been more along the lines as the Director of Homeland Security has confirmed that this was not a Russian disinformation campaign, that these emails are real emails. They have been confirmed real from people attached to the email threads.
Isn't this confirmation just come out in the last couple of hours, though?
Or do you claim that these emails are fraudulent? Or even go along the lines of, did your son drop off the alleged laptop at the Delaware repair shop? Or did you ever discuss meetings with Burisma executives? Those questions should have been asked
So they played it. They played it safe in terms of the question itself, and they went broad and they said, I don't remember the exact question because it's eluding me right now, but the question was around whether or not Hunter Biden had did anything unethical, right? And specifically related to the laptop situation. And yeah, could they have asked like very specific questions about like, hey, we just found out like right now, because I believe that FBI director thing came out literally a few hours ago, right? Hey, we just found out a couple hours ago that apparently all of this is real, right? Which, by the way, even
they found out that it was real days ago. They found out, they got confirmation from Hunter's business partner that Hunter's ex-business partner came out and said that they were Joe Biden was involved in these schemes, and he was indeed profiting off these business dealings. Like that was the news that broke today. That was obviously
so Hunter Biden's former business partner said that Joe Biden was profiting.
So yeah, Tony Bobolinsky.
Bobolinsky. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
So his former business partner came out and he said that he was one of the recipients on the email that was on from 2017 in May, and he was on the email that referred to Joe Biden as the big guy,
mm-hmm.
and he said that yes, like that this whole thing is real and that Joe Biden is definitely profiting and he knows very well about the shady business dealings. Essentially that in a nutshell in the statement that he made earlier that day.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was kind of the smoking gun, and there's still investigation. I'm still waiting for all the information, right. But at the very least, my curiosity about the emails being real are settled. Like I believe they're real. I want to dive deeper into how much. I mean, I think Biden very well knew, but I want to like more information along the lines of like how much he knew and how much he was involved in these shady dealings. Because we can talk about the Joe Biden family a little bit after we get through some more of these debate questions. Do you want to put a pin on that?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's put a pin on that and we'll get to this. All right, so where were we? So yeah, troop bounty selling. Joe Biden, nothing wrong with Burisma. Okay, here is something. So Trump was bragging about subsidizing U.S. farming with steel tariffs. Did I hear that right?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that again?
So he was talking about subsidizing U.S. farming with steel tariffs. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, I didn't actually hear that part at all. So that sounds strange.
I thought because they got into a fight of saying he's like Joe Biden's like, the American taxpayer is paying for these farm subsidies. He's like, no, China's paying for it. China is paying for these subsidies, and they're doing it through my steel deal. He's doing it through my different trade deals.
Right, which we've gone over, over and again, that tariffs are a tax, and that normally falls on the American taxpayers because manufacturers will charge more because their products, their raw goods, cost more.
Well, here's something I did like about Trump, that he did brag about his relationship with Kim Jong-un.
Yeah, and I was actually okay with that. I was fine with that. I was fine with that response.
Like I honestly think he came out ahead on that North Korea segment,
mm-hmm.
Because Biden just kind of promulgated the status quo type policy.
Yeah, because he was like,
at the very least, Trump.
Go ahead.
Trump was like, like, yeah, these guys are evil, but I want to be friends with them. It's like better than be close with these people than have a nuclear war.
Yeah, no, totally. And Biden's answer for what he would do is, in my opinion, unacceptable. Right? He was like, oh well, we're gonna keep doing fucking military maneuvers, and we're gonna keep fucking flying around, and we're gonna keep moving our missile launchers closer to China. And why? Because North Korea is a problem. And it's like, that's a bad idea. Like, basically he's saying, let's bully them more, and that's how we're going to solve the nuclear issue with North Korea. Just keep bullying them. Keep poking them in the eye.
Yeah,
that was an unacceptable answer, in my opinion.
They don't really have a North Korea policy.
No, they don't have a very strong foreign policy in general.
Or I don't think anyone over at the DNC is really thinking about North Korea,
Mm-hmm.
or cares about North Korea right now. To be completely honest,
I mean,
it's like,
look, I think Trump, and I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. I think Trump is right on this issue. I think opening up more dialogue with these countries is how you solve this. I don't think military posturing is how you stop people from doing it. That should be the absolute last possible thing that you do. Like you've literally tried everything else.
yeah. Well, I mean, the sunshine policy that was going on in the 80s or in the 90s, where they were trying to gradually disarm them, was the best thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was that they ended up, Japan ended up finding out that they were kidnapping Japanese civilians, and
They put the
reneged
kibosh on that one.
they
real
put the
fast.
kibosh
Yeah.
on the negotiations, and it ended up screwing everything up.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because there were rumors in Japan that they were trying that North Korea was kidnapping civilians, and then it ended up being confirmed during these talks between Russia, Japan, the U.S., and China.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, here's what triggered me the most
Okay,
during this
hit me.
meeting. I this is the only time I started yelling. Biden said, in my opinion, said maybe the dumbest thing I've ever heard about raising the minimum wage and how it helps small businesses.
Right, that was a stupid
in my life.
stupid fucking line.
When he said that, yeah, raising the minimum wage, it helps small businesses. And Trump was like, what? How does raising the minimum wage help small businesses?
I mean, if you're of the opinion that we should raise the minimum wage, and I happen to be, your argument shouldn't be raising the minimum wage helps small businesses. It should be raising the minimum wage helps people, which ultimately turns them into higher consumers, which helps small businesses. If people have more money to spend, they're going to spend more money on these businesses, right? So it sucks in the immediate term that the businesses have to pay more. I mean, take it with a grain of salt. I don't think it sucks to pay people a living wage, but it might hurt your bottom line. But in the end, what it does is give people more money to spend back into the economy. And you can argue that raising the minimum wage will cause people to fire people, right? Because they can't afford to have more people. Right? That is a legitimate argument, and I'm happy to debate both sides, back and forth till the fucking cows come home. But the argument shouldn't be raising the minimum wage helps small businesses just like that. Like there is no line that you can draw between those two things. I think that was a stupid thing to say.
There's no way that, well, there's no connection that you can.
No.
Any small business owner that's watching that debate is like fuming at him, because honestly, what it sounded like, and what this is what's gonna, if I was a Republican strategist working for the Trump campaign,
right,
like what I would do is that I would try to, I would turn this into like Trump. Biden is anti-small business, and he is for Wall Street. And he basically wants to shut you down forever. He wants to make it basically unaffordable for you to reopen your businesses and put all these crazy standards due to COVID in there. And also, in addition to that, raise the minimum wage will make it impossible to even hire back your staff.
Yeah.
So that would be the narrative.
That would be a very strong.
What it sounded like.
That'd be a very strong narrative to push.
And that's honestly what it sounded like. What Biden was saying in a lot of these things. Could he do that? I don't know. I mean, here's the thing with Republicans nowadays is that Republicans have already kind of agreed that the reason why I hate the strategy of Republicans going against using the socialism strategy as kind of their straw man is because Republicans have already agreed that socialism is good with their incredible spending over the past
yeah,
years.
Exactly.
So they've already lost the argument, because they've already lost the moral argument with their bailouts and
Right. Everybody's
with
for
their
spending
reckless
money. It's just
spending.
like on their own
So
pet
now
projects.
it's
Right.
like you've already lost the logic of that.
Right.
Like, okay, if spending is okay and good, why not spend more? So you've already lost the argument to the Democrats
Right.
if you're a Republican. That's why I hate that that point of view, that strategy that they were
Right.
doing.
And
And I think I've
that's a
been
good
saying
point.
that for a long time, that they were planning on doing that, and I don't think that's going
It's
to
a losing
resonate really.
argument. But honestly, I think barring that one statement where he literally said that raising the minimum wage is gonna help small businesses. Barring that, he did pivot well after that line, and he started hitting on the fact that there are first responders that are underpaid, right? And those first responders are the ones that are currently working right now, on this COVID crisis. And there are many, arguably who fall under the poverty line based on, if you were to calculate the actual number of hours that they're working and the take-home pay that they're doing, they're like making like sub-poverty level hours, salaries, excuse me. And I think that's a fair point there. Like, why would we want our first responders, who are absolutely vital right now, to go underpaid and underappreciated? And to that extent, he kind of extended that out to literally everyone. It's like everybody's hurting right now. It's not just the first responders. Everybody's struggling. So why wouldn't we want to help people out, right? And I think this is probably some like a very small intersectionality between the two of us. It's like, if you're going to spend money, I personally think we should be spending it on people and not necessarily on like bailing out specific sectors of our economy.
If you are going to do a bailout, then I think that model would be better. Even though I don't agree with any, but let's just say,
you don't want to spend any money, but if you had to,
if you put a gun to my
right.
head, that would be the direction I would go.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be it wouldn't be given to businesses. It would be given to people, but I wouldn't do that either.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So speaking of that, here's something that I think that could hurt Biden is bringing up the immigration issue.
Okay, interesting. How?
Because I don't think most people. I think immigration was a big deal of why Trump was elected. It was one of the platforms that he really ran on and he got elected on.
Oh,
and I think even bringing that up and talking about the pathway for citizenship and all that, and then Trump had a good liner out of that, like who built the cages?
Who built the cages? Who built the cages, Joe?
Who built the cages, Joe?
Who built the cages, Joe? He said it 4 times in a row. It was fucking great. That was my favorite line from that bit.
This is going to be portrayed as, or narrated as, that Biden wants to kind of import votership and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a stretch.
And most of these swing states are, I don't really think they give a shit about immigration, to be completely honest.
It's a bit of a stretch, but I know why he talked about it. It was political calculus, because just recently we got a report out that said like something over 500 children cannot be matched with their 500 immigrant children who were separated from their families at the border cannot be matched to their parents anymore, right? So that's like the big breaking news, or at least the breaking news that the liberal left are talking about right now. And so, of course, naturally, he's going to want to talk about that, right? He's going to want to throw that pot shot out because he thinks that's easy win points. But really, he's not like convincing any like conservative people. Maybe a couple people on the fence, like if you remind them that, hey, Trump separated all these people at the border, like you don't want to vote for this dude. Maybe that's a winning play. But that's the reason why he talked about it. And I think to that point, it's it's super troubling because Trump kind of got himself, in my opinion, into a bad corner, because he did again bring up the rapists and the murderers. And I know we've argued about this one line about Trump saying it and how it gets taken out of context, but context or not, you don't want to say those words again if you're Trump. Just don't even give the left the ability to take that out of context. I think that was a really bad idea, because he was just like, oh yeah, maybe a rapist comes over, maybe a murderer comes over, and he's specifically talking about individual comes over. But the left is going to say, look, he's saying rapists and murderers again. He's calling all these immigrants rapists and murderers again. I think that was just a bad idea.
I actually disagree. I understand what you're saying, but I disagree from I know I disagree from a political I disagree from a strategic standpoint. I think Trump's chance of winning the re-election is getting people to vote on the right in high turnouts at this point. I don't necessarily think it's going to be to convince, like, maybe left-leaning or fair-minded liberals who are kind of moderates to vote, who are turned off by that. I think it's more so he wants to get people who are like, fuck it, I'm voting for Trump type thing. Like, let's go out. And I don't think that necessarily hurts them. And they want to hear, like, yeah, a lot of these fucking people coming to this country are criminals. And we do need stronger immigration laws, and I'm glad you brought it up. I think that might actually help them. But
well, I mean, I personally think, to our earlier points, right when we started the show, I don't think this changed any people's minds, or at least it didn't change very many people's minds. And I don't honestly think that. I think this was just baiting his side to come out and vote on this like red meat issue for them. Much in the same way that it becomes red meat issue for the opposite side, just in the inverse direction.
So I found the last 20 minutes just weird for this debate.
Yeah.
So I keep on forgetting the moderator's name, but apparently she was a former intern for Biden at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So they went to the topic of race in America, and she gave Joe Biden an invitation to make some racial pandering speech at the very end. And I don't think that the liberal left, I think they underestimate how much the average person really doesn't connect with the racial pandering social justice crap.
I disagree. But I hear what you're saying, and I respect what you're saying in the sense that I think that there are a group of people who this will resonate with, and there's a group of people who this won't resonate with. And I hear your point that the moderator bringing up this issue is really only catering to this subset of people who this might resonate with, and not necessarily the subset of people like you, as an example, who this doesn't resonate with. But I do think that the question that was asked was fair, and it was the kind of weird talk, the weird talk that a black family has to have with their child, about how they are more likely to be in an altercation with the police, and that white families don't have to have this kind of conversation. And this is, whether this is a self-serving bias, because we're teaching kids that, they have to be scared of cops, that's one argument that's made sometimes, or whether it is legitimate and saying like, hey, statistically speaking, young black men are more likely to, get killed by a police officer than a, than a young white man, as an example, based on the proportion of their respective populations. So, there's arguments on both sides for it, and I think, this year has been, a whole fucking long, and there's things that are top of mind today that weren't top of mind an hour ago, but I think it would have been a disservice not to bring up race relations in this country, especially after a year like this, on the last debate before an election. I think it's totally fair to ask and talk about.
Well, it opened up some weird
dialogue. Yeah, sure.
Some very
totally
weird debate moments when Trump was like, "See, I've done more for black people than
Abraham Lincoln."
Yeah, other than Abraham Lincoln, no other president's done more for black people. Other than,
I mean, that's a tired line. He's used that before.
Maybe Abraham Lincoln did more, but
that's a tired line. He's used that one before, but
that was yeah. I think it's hilarious when he goes back. It would be shocking if so at one point, this is like a really weird moment. Joe Biden kind of slurred his words, and something really weird came out where he said, I couldn't really make out, but he said something like, Abraham Lincoln was the most racist president. Like,
yeah. But he was literally like slurring his words as he was saying it.
Definitely sounded like you said, Abraham Lincoln is the
most racist president. Right? Exactly. Yeah.
To why? Yeah. My like weird autistic brain, I was like, whoa, Biden's dropping truth bombs about the Civil War right
Yeah,
now.
that's what I thought too. And then
I was
really
like,
it was just
oh
he fucked up.
shit.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he knows about the
He got red pilled on Lincoln. Oh man.
he got red pilled on Lincoln's plan to
To send them all back to Africa.
send black people to the colonies in Africa.
Seriously.
That he was like had an obsession and a fetish over the Liberia movement. Like, whoa, if you said that, I would have been like, like the Emancipation Proclamation was a political move to cause riots in the South and to cause more favor with the British and the French, so they wouldn't join the side of the Confederacy during the Civil War, and that he had already made concessions with the South that he wasn't going that you can keep your slaves as long as you don't rebel. I mean, if he started bringing in that type of stuff in that, I would have been like, holy shit, fucking Sleepy Joe, didn't know you had it in you to come up with some dope fucking nuanced point, but
it was just this word slur.
Well, you see, so I thought it was the weirdest moment of the entire that whole part. These two old white dudes, Joe Biden, 78 years old, who was an author of the crime bill, and then Trump, who's just like, black people love me because I made billions of dollars. That's what they like in rap music, right? More jobs, like between him and Joe Biden talking about race in America. I don't think you could pick two
worst people to talk about it. Yeah, but that's what we have today. That's what we got.
But that's what we have. But then again, it probably beats listening to someone like AOC talk about it.
At 100%. At least her fucking sentences are coherent.
But it was just a very, very goofy moment within just American politics in general. Hearing these guys talk about this. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Did I have an extra point about this at all? I thought I did, but I'm kind of losing my train of thought right now. I
can't believe I forgot about this one on the race issue. So first of all, they were talking about the race issue, and Trump was talking about how he commuted 20 people's sentences, and then Biden was like, "Oh, cool, you commuted 20 sentences. We commuted over 1,000." It was like, "Oh, burn." And then after that, he was like, "They're talking about a race issue," and then suddenly they got into this side argument about Hunter Biden's laptop for a minute. Do you remember that part? They were just talking about Hunter Biden's laptop situation. And then he goes, "I'm the least racist person in the room. I don't know, I can't see all the people in the crowd. It's dark out there, but I'm definitely the least racist person in the room." And I'm just like, how can you be so sure that you, in fact, are the least racist person in the room? It just sounds like something a racist might say. I'm not calling him a racist. I'm just saying it sounds like a defense a racist would make.
What do I look like? You are all racist.
You're the racist.
Think that, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. The super predator thing. So Trump keeps on saying that Biden said called them super predator, during the crime bill, he called the criminals super predators.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that was Hillary Clinton who used the word.
It was, but he's conflating the two.
He's conflating the two.
Mm-hmm.
I remember what Biden said was, he said he didn't want his kids going to school in a racial jungle.
Which isn't a great thing to say either.
which is also pretty bad.
Uh-huh.
Biden also said, like, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black and stuff like that. So there's plenty of things, but he keeps on conflating something that Hillary Clinton said to Joe Biden, which just is like, you can just go and debunk it. Like, when you make it that easy to debunk, people are going to just debunk it easily. Other than that, I don't really have any other things to say about this debate.
Honestly, I think the last thing I want to say about it is, again, I enjoyed it because we had an opportunity to actually listen to what each person had to say. And even if you disagree with what each person had to say, it's fine. And, for the most part, people weren't talking over each other. I think the worst things that came out of this was, on occasion, both Trump and Biden overspoke their 2 minutes, and the moderator had to try and jump in, you know. And but other than that, the moderator wasn't really jumping in and like cutting people off in the middle of their time, which was the case with Chris Wallace in the first go around. Even Donald Trump said to the moderator, who's like, I like the way that you're handling this one, you know. So even Trump, who, you know, always plays the victim on these debates, said that this was a good debate. And I agree. You know, it gave everyone an opportunity to hear every side, everyone's points. I thought it was cool. I appreciate it.
It was kind of funny because you would think the former Biden intern would be like would attack Trump more than the guy who worked at Fox News,
right?
Chris Wallace,
right?
But like the Chris Wallace one seemed a lot more unfavorable to Trump,
right? He was like, "Well, sir, you're the one that's interrupting more, sir." He was getting really really argumentative.
He was
with
like, "I'm jealous of her, not debate her."
Yeah.
I think he's like, he kind of reminds me of Mitch McConnell. Maybe he's his long lost brother.
They have a very similar voice,
and like glasses frame size. All right, so let's talk about Hunter Biden.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's talk about this fucking crackhead. So what happened was that Hunter Biden he left his laptop at a Delaware repair shop, and then he forgot to pick it up.
Oh god, this whole story reeks of weirdness. But okay.
And then, well, this is the story. So Hunter dropped off 3 computers
because he's a rich guy. Rich guys have 3 computers
with liquid damage at a repair shop in Wilmington, Delaware. And then the owner, he determined that one of them was beyond recovery, and one was okay in the data on the hard drive. One had data that could be recovered. So Hunter had signed the service ticket, and John Paul repaired the hard drive, and then he downloaded the data. And during the process of him downloading the data, he saw these images of emails that concerned Burisma and Ukraine and China and all this stuff.
Can we stop right there for a second before you continue on? Because this is the first point that I start getting a little bit weird about. And I don't know about this, so like if you work at a computer repair shop or like, you know, an Apple store or some shit like that, you tell me if this is weird or sounds weird to you. But something tells me that you're not supposed to poke around in people's personal files when you're repairing their computers. Something tells me that's not kosher in that industry.
To me, that's the weirdest part of the story, is that like what are the ethics behind poking at other people's stuff? Like, did he do it because it was Hunter Biden and he wanted to like get to the scoop of stuff? Because I'm assuming in Delaware, like, you know who the Bidens are. If you're from Delaware, like, oh shit, that's Hunter Biden. Holy shit, look at this stuff that he has in his server. But what happened is that Hunter Biden just never went back to pick it up, and he stiffed him with the bill. So he didn't pay his invoice.
Yeah, I'm seeing some comments here about how it was legal. It was legally his because it was in his possession for 90 days. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. That's it is. So 90 days, it was legally in his possession. It passed the 90-day mark, and it was legally his. So, and he didn't pay for it, or that's what crack does. It makes you forget your laptops. I mean, last time I smoked crack, I only left my suit. The last time I smoked crack, I only left my suit at the dry cleaners. I didn't leave 3 computers. I'm joking.
I mean, if you're making $150,000 a month from China, I think when you break a laptop, you just kind of get a new one.
Like, whatever. There's definitely not something that's going to bite me in the ass later on these hard drives.
I wouldn't put it past a crackhead to do something stupid like that and bring their computer with incriminating evidence on it to a place and then forget all about it. But also, a lot of things have to go wrong for you to do that too. So, yeah.
So he gave it to the FBI, and then there was no follow-up from the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
And then he contacted Giuliani, the office of Giuliani, and then he gave the
Mm-hmm.
hard drive from them. And I'm not
Yeah,
100%.
let's stop there again too. So what's your point there?
So he'd given the hard drive
Mm-hmm.
to Giuliani,
To
I'm sorry,
Giuliani's lawyer,
to the
actually.
FBI, and then there was like no confirmation. Then he had given it to Giuliani's office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
so it definitely made its way to Giuliani, right? Vis-a-vis his lawyer, right? Robert Costello is his lawyer. So he gave it to the FBI. He got no feedback, and then he gave it to Giuliani. Like, why Giuliani? And so I was reading something about this, and it was like, because I actually listened to. First of all, giving it to Giuliani was his mistake, because then he got outed accidentally because of it, because Giuliani gave it to the Post, and then the Post accidentally leaked both the name of the company that he works for and the guy's name, and then all of these media people started reaching out. The Daily Beast actually has an hour long like audio interview with him that they just posted on their website today, and in it he was saying that he felt very very scared for his life, right? Like he thought he was going to be. He even mentioned this. He thought, what was that guy, the fucking DNC guy that apparently got killed by Hillary Clinton that you always
Seth
like to
Rich.
talk about? Yeah, thank you, Seth Rich. He basically like alluded to the Seth Rich situation, that he didn't want to get Jeffrey Epstein, and therefore he needed a what was the exact words he used? I had this pulled up a second. He said he needed a lifeguard, right? And and he got stuck because it was like, okay, so you chose Rudy Giuliani to be your lifeguard, so you gave this information to him, who ultimately gave it to the media that outed him, right? So like he could get off at any point at this juncture now, because he's out, because Giuliani leaked it.
I'm not sure what the exact what I would think the logic is that, well, I'm connected to Giuliani. Like, if I get Epstein or Seth Rich, then there's there's enough media attention where it's obvious that I was that someone killed me.
You would think so, but for people who believe so vehemently that like there's a fucking vampire pedophile ring out there that will do anything to protect themselves, that you don't think that
listen,
they'll go after him if they wanted to?
Danny, you're honestly not that far from the truth. Just erase the word vampire, and that's been proven true over the past year, man. Like, it's been proven true that there's a pedophile ring that will do anything to protect themselves through Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah, I mean,
like
for sure. But what I'm saying
on these Pizzagate people, and all these people who take these conspiracy theories to the extreme, and yeah, a lot, they come up with a bunch of wacky stuff and weird conspiracies and motives and stuff like that. But the underlying conspiracy that there are evil pedophiles that are engaged in human trafficking. I mean, that's true. Like, it's true.
But to my point though, if you believe so vehemently that this was the case, you trust Giuliani? That's the person you go to with this information?
I don't know his logic of going to, or what were the exact reasons that made him.
And like, how do you even find Giuliani? Like, how do you contact Rudy Giuliani's lawyer to give him this kind of information? Like, if I had some dirt on Biden right now,
or a political liaison, like, you can contact politicians. I mean, you probably go to rudygiuliani.com saying, I have Hunter Biden's server,
and he's just gonna bite.
Yeah, I'm calling you.
Yeah,
right
we
away.
should try that.
I don't want to get involved in that. But yeah, so this thing ends up in Giuliani's hands, and I'm sure a lot of people who are listening probably know this story even better than us. So I'll skip the the boring details, but nevertheless, I think that the most important thing to take from it is that, I guess, when the hard drive first appeared, it seemed kind of fishy. Like, I even thought it was fishy at first. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? But then people were confirming that on the chain, on the email chain, that these emails were indeed real. And the immediate spin from the corporate press was that this was Russian disinformation,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, well, 50 intelligence officers say it's Russian. It's like purely Russian, obviously Russian disinformation.
Mm-hmm.
And the first name on it is John Brennan, and I'm like, okay, this is just bullshit. John Brennan and James Clapper are both are within the first five names of the intelligence officers who signed this, and they're all former intelligence officers who had no fucking. They're just partisans,
Mm-hmm.
and so this thing. So Ratcliffe comes out and it's like, no, this isn't Russian disinformation. It's real. Like these are real, and then the emails get confirmed, and I guess the important part, I guess the two conspiracies that are, well, there's a bunch within here. Um, I guess the nepotism uh, with Biden's family dealing, and then also there's the cover up from major media outlets, and not asking Joe Biden, or kind of providing a political shield for him to not answer these questions. Like, hey, like what's the deal here? Like, what is the deal? Is there any merit to these? Like, did your son, um, were you involved in these business dealings from Hunter Biden? Or even, are these emails real? Like, are these real? Like, can you confirm that these are real? Have you talked to like Hunter? Like, even that would just be kind of the bare minimum type of journalism that you would think that some of these agencies would do. And the Biden camp hasn't denied it at all either. Like, they're not denying it. So
Yeah, and I
it
think
seems,
if there's anything that convinces me, it's the fact that they haven't vehemently denied it. Like, if I was on the Biden camp, even if he fucking did do it, like, I'd be suggesting very strongly that he come out and say that this is false and not real.
so the other day, what was also interesting, and no one's really talking about this at all, is that Giuliani said that there was evidence on there that he had to hand over to the Delaware police because allegedly it had to do with child endangerment.
Okay, so that part I actually want to kind of push back against, because there was a subpoena for the hard drives, and that subpoena didn't specifically say that they were subpoenaing Mac Isaac, the computer repair shop owner guy. It didn't specifically say that they were subpoenaing him for Hunter Biden's hard drive, and this is a connection point that people are making, but that is not confirmed. It is not confirmed that the FBI subpoena that they gave Mac Isaac was for Hunter Biden's email hard drive. That he got a subpoena from the FBI, but it did not say specifically that he was being subpoenaed for that. And then that's what's everybody's got. That's why everyone's on this idea that there's some pedophilia involved in it, because the guy, the agent who signed on the subpoena, what is this dude's name? I had him on the list somewhere. All right, I don't remember his name. This dude, he, for the last 5 years, Joshua Wilson is the FBI agent, right? Joshua Wilson, for the last 5 years, had been mostly looking into child pornography, right? That was his investigative, like, major, we'll call it, right? And he was the one who subpoenaed, who potentially, like, the signature looks similar, and that's why we're saying it's probably this guy. So even that's not confirmed. But let's assume that it is. Let's assume that it is Joshua Wilson. If it was Joshua Wilson, then they're trying to make the link and say that this subpoena was for Hunter Biden's hard drive, and therefore there must have been some child pornography or some pedophilia or some sick shit on his computer, and that's why he got that thing. But what's missing there is the proof that the actual subpoena was for Hunter Biden's hard drive. Like, keep in mind, this guy is a computer repair shop person. The FBI could potentially subpoena this guy for anyone's computer that they suspect has child pornography on it, not just Hunter Biden's.
I'm pretty unclear on, like, the laws of this, but what made me think of it was that Rudy Giuliani straight up said that. Like that's coming directly from Rudy Giuliani as a source, saying that he himself handed it over because of child endangerment. That was the language he used. That's honestly the only thing that I really know about it, is that he said that he handed it over to Delaware police.
You'll forgive me for taking everything that Giuliani says with a heavy grain of salt.
I mean, I don't blame you. I'm not a fan of Giuliani. I want to hear the entire story.
Right. I actually do want the answers though.
I want to
I'm
hear
interested.
I want to hear the answers. If it
Yeah.
turns out being like a weird political maneuver, then I would want that called out. Now, I think it is important to discuss the Biden family. A lot of people who've been talking about this have been talking more so about like the media blackout, which definitely deserves a lot of criticism for it. But I don't think most people are really aware of the reason why. I don't think a lot of the blows that Trump was trying to land during the debate on the Biden, profiteering scheme is because most people aren't really aware of it. But before the election, there was a ton of articles that were written by all mainstream sources, all about how Biden is that the Biden name is used as basically a brand to profit from. Like there's a big article in Politico that was released called Biden Inc. There was a bunch of articles in the Wall Street Journal. There's articles in the Intercept.
Right.
There were a lot of things written during the beginning of the election about how Joe Biden's family could be a political burden for them because there's so much shady shit that has gone on.
Right, we're talking about a 47-year, term politician that did an 8-year stint as vice president of the United States. Yeah, of course they're using his name.
Well, his entire family has been involved in
right, his brother, his sons, everybody.
His two brothers, his sister, his son-in-law, his son. Like his sister, she had been his campaign manager during the 2008 presidential bid, and she siphoned millions of dollars in consulting fees directly from his campaign donations into her private consulting company. And then Frank Biden, he had been given, so when he was VP, Obama gave Joe Biden he gave Latin American and Caribbean policy to Joe Biden, and somehow his brother Frank Biden, he gets granted with a partnership to build like medical facilities, and casinos and golf courses and stuff in Costa Rica. And he didn't really have any experience in building these at all. And then James Biden, both of his brothers, James Biden as well, he had said stuff like, we've got people all around who want to invest in Joe Biden. So James Biden and Hunter Biden, they ran a hedge fund called Paradigm, and the investment fund was like basically one that dealt with higher risk investments, and he owned this hedge fund with Hunter Biden. So James and Hunter, they had 50% ownership with this fund, and essentially it ended up being connected with Stanford Financial Group, which was, I think at the time, the largest Ponzi scheme ever before Bernie Sanders,
Bernie Madoff. Yeah.
Before Bernie Madoff. This was like, if not the largest, the second largest Ponzi scheme ever.
Yeah.
Where Stanford Financial Group would market out and brand out Paradigm Global Advisors as an alternative fund to theirs. So they would package them in with their investments, and they all went to jail. Not no one from the Biden camp went to jail, but Stanford Financial Group was
certainly
indicted.
Did, right?
And the the operations of the hedge fund were basically forced to wind down. But after that, like James Biden was he had been hired the by Hillstone International, which was a construction management firm, like one of the largest construction management firms. He was hired as an executive vice president, and this was right before they were awarded with a contract worth $1.5 billion to build 100,000 homes in Iraq during Reconstruction.
Mm-hmm.
So he magically gets this position as an executive vice president, for a firm that just signed a contract with the U.S. government to build homes in Iraq.
Right.
So they're just profiteers. And then Hunter Biden, like, he had joined up with John Kerry's stepson Chris Hines, and then Devin Archer, who's in jail. He's been criminally indicted, and they just made some really, really shady deals in China with Rosemont Capital.
Yep.
And then they have him getting this job with Burisma with no experience. And then you have also the add fire to that. They were under investigation, and the prosecutor was fired. Now, you can make a counter to this and say that he wasn't fired. Like Joe Biden, he had said at like a think tank meeting, that he had fired this Ukrainian prosecutor, and he said that he was withholding aid to Ukraine until they fired a prosecutor. That he was going to hold.
Sounds a lot like a
phone call we talked about. $1 billion in U.S. loans. So
yeah, dude.
Unless they fired Viktor Shokin, and basically it was kind of like that was projected on Donald Trump later that year.
Right.
But I guess what the claim was is that he had personal stakes to keep his son on the board because Burisma was being investigated by Shokin. Now, what people to counter that say that, well, that was just a foreign policy. Like, they wanted to get rid of Viktor Shokin. Like, that was the Obama policy. So it wasn't doing it for personal interest. And honestly, you could convince me that, like, I don't even necessarily think that was for personal gain. It certainly worked out in Burisma's favor because they were being charged with like $40 million in tax evasion, and they ended up paying just like a $4 million fine or something like that. Like something that ended up being like a really big win for Burisma. But where the red flag comes in is the guy that was hired after Viktor Shokin for that prosecutor position, Luchenko. That new prosecutor didn't even have a law degree, and he had been previously indicted for embezzlement. So it's like, all right, so did he really care about corruption? Like, what was the bottom of it?
Yeah, but who put that person in power though? Did the Biden
the Biden
say like, hey,
I hire this guy?
Right.
It wasn't like that. Like, this guy was a Ukrainian crony who was close to the new government.
Right.
But it wasn't like an issue with the Obama administration when he was hired.
Right.
So
it's not like, oh, this guy is their corruption moral high ground goes out the window when they do nothing about the second guy who comes on, Lushenko or whatever his name was.
Yeah, it's like they didn't really care about that. So what was the actual agenda for?
Yeah, and that's where the fair criticism comes out on, like, well, if it was the foreign policy to stop this corruption, and we got a more corrupt person out of it, then that must not be true, and you must have been doing this for like personal gain. That's where that line comes from. Well, I think it's fair. It's a fair question to ask.
It's fair. I was about to make an excellent point, but it completely just slipped my mind.
My bad.
No, it's don't say, what was I going to say? All right. I guess the big scandal, though, that no one ever really talks about is that the U.S. overthrew the Ukrainian government.
quietly.
They quietly helped overthrow the Ukrainian government in 2014. And they did this by funding neo-Nazis,
Bum bum
which led to like the
bum.
favorable conditions of having a Hunter Biden appointed to the board of Burisma. So I don't know this story inside and out. Like I'm curious to learn more. Like the big smoking gun right now is that all right? Is this guy um, being used? Is this guy? Well, he's obviously being used as a political tool, but um, is this guy telling the truth about?
Mm-hmm.
Is Bob Alinsky telling the truth about Hunter Biden?
Right.
Like, did he? Is this true that that Joe Biden was indeed very well aware of these profiteering schemes, and was he actively participating and collecting equity in these deals? Were his family members giving him a cut of these different business deals? Was he using it to profit for himself? That's like the big question.
Right. It's like, how does it go back to Biden? I think
It's
that's the important point.
and what this guy is saying is that if he's saying yes, obviously you need more than one person
Right.
to you need to look at patterns. The pattern is I think pretty clear that the Biden family has taken advantage of their last name and the political power of
Hmm.
their
Yeah, I don't,
brother
I don't think that's
father.
I don't think that's in question for sure. Yeah.
And like many politicians do, because
Hmm.
I mean this is like you can easily be like, well, what about this politician? And I would say
I mean, you
you're
could literally
exactly
say, "What about Trump?" Like, I
you
mean,
could say about almost every politician, but where the real corruption comes from is what is the link? Was he
mhm.
actually involved in these business dealings himself? And
Right.
if he was collecting money or any type of financial gain from them, then that's criminal. And the point I was going to make, I just remembered about Ukraine. So everybody's corrupt in Ukraine. Like everybody's like Ukraine is corrupt. All the politicians there are corrupt. Like they're all just salesmen, just selling away the natural resources there. So it's hard to pick and choose or know who's corrupt. It's like Iraq. Like everyone in Iraq is corrupt.
Right.
Everyone in Lebanon is corrupt who works in the government there. They're just corrupt, broken governments. Um, so it's hard to pick and choose, or I mean, it's almost impossible for us mortals who are not really
But I mean,
involved in
but
foreign policy decisions to know who the fuck is corrupt or not.
right. But I guess the reason why it's relevant, part of the reason I guess why we're talking about it today is because we're in an election season, right? And okay, we agree, politicians are corrupt, but like, how does that now relate to picking a president, right? Now we're saying potentially, if all of this gets confirmed and corroborated by more than one source, that you know Biden is politically profiteering, right? Which could be a crime, and we're about to potentially make him president. Maybe we're certainly
Well,
voting for millions
I
of people.
think I
Probably already voted for him at this point, right?
so I don't think I don't know what's going to happen. This may never just develop as a story. I think it certainly will. If so,
I think it's certainly intended to be the October surprise. I think this is very strategically placed and
yeah,
and,
I
and
think
came out for
you're
that reason.
obviously it's being dripped like an October surprise,
Right.
and like the big. It seemed like the big climax was today.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll see if
Well,
there's
we still
if
haven't found out about the pedophile stuff, so
well,
maybe
no
the
one's really
best is yet to
touching that.
come.
No one's really
Dude,
touching that.
they were talking about it today on Tucker. They
Oh,
were
they
talking
were.
yeah, they were talking about it
Oh,
today. So I maybe that shit's coming out. I don't know. But I mean, like, again, it just comes back again to the question: Is this you know is this a crime? Did he commit a crime? We're about to vote for him, or not vote for him if you're not voting for him. But point is, like, he could potentially be the next president. Did he commit a crime? Will he continue to commit a crime? Is Hunter Biden a political liability if
well,
Biden becomes
yeah, he's a
president?
political liability.
you know, like,
I was reading this Intercept article from 2019, and it was from early 2019, and it was all just about how Hunter Biden's going to be a political liability for the Democrats, and this is going to end up exploding because this guy is so bad.
Right.
And it ended up being true.
You could say what you want about the Trump family, and because they have their fucking skeletons in their closet, but at least none of them are like open crackheads like this guy. So.
At the very least, you could say about Trump is that, like, yeah, you may hate Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump or whatever, but they're not. They're like coherent.
They're coherent
like
assholes.
well-spoken, like, they're.
Well, look,
not,
I mean,
crack.
Kind of the one thing that kind of got swept under the rug in favor. What I find funny about this whole thing is that the story that got swept under the rug, at least from the right, was from earlier this month. I think it was like on October 2nd or something like that. That story came out about how Ivanka Trump got $750,000 in consulting fees. Right, it's like the Trump organization was paying a unnamed consultant $750,000, and then it came out that Ivanka Trump also received an identical amount of money in the same time through a consulting company that she owns, and she was doing so while acting as an advisor to the president, and then whether or not that was like illegal or not. So there's that whole thing, and it's funny because the $750,000, right? It sounds a lot like the amount of money that Hunter Biden was making through Burisma on an annual basis. Both of these stories are stories of how you have a person high up in government that has a whole lot of clout and a strong last name, and you can basically command a crazy amount of money, and but our news like cycle moves so damn quickly that happened for about 10 seconds, and then we moved on, and now we're on to this one.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I feel like the cycle is moving so quickly. Things that were such big news are like, they seem like just decades ago.
Right.
Another good, but the Ivanka thing, you're right to point out the Ivanka thing. I think that the Ivanka Jared Kushner marriage is probably one of the more corrupt aspects of Trump's presidency, as far as like the connection between him and Jared Kushner, and then Jared Kushner's father, who went to jail for setting a honey trap on his brother-in-law. What's going on there?
Yeah, that was a weird ass story.
Jared Kushner was giving money to a foundation that was building Israeli settlements, and then he was put in charge of the Middle East peace plan.
Right, and then the question is like, all right, the issue in the Middle East, right? The Middle East crisis is very difficult. What are Jared Kushner's? How is he qualified to do that? So, you can levy this.
Netanyahu sleeps in his bed when he's
in
not
his bunk
there,
bed
when he's visiting New York.
It's because you know what it is? It's because he's Jewish. That's it. I feel like Trump was like, hey, you're Jewish, right? How about you do the Middle East peace thing? Because honestly, what are outside of that? Like, what are his qualifications?
His qualifications is that Benjamin Netanyahu wrote the peace plan. That's his qualification. It's his political relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu, more so than anything. Like
I feel some parallels here.
Might as well have wrote those plans, and he Bibi. I'll end with this because it's getting late. So Bibi, this was a couple of weeks ago. He apparently there was this article that came out that he leaves his laundry whenever he comes to the White House. He comes with stacks and bags and bags and bags of laundry to leave at the White House.
Now?
Yeah.
Why?
He just brings his laundry to be done in the White House.
It's like his dirty drawers. He's like, hey, can you please wash my boxer briefs? Thank you very much.
Just type in BB laundry in Google, and he is bringing massive amounts of his dirty laundry to the White House to be done.
Like literal dirty laundry.
No, yeah, literal laundry.
Maybe they got the good washing machines, in the White House.
Maybe. Let's see. Israel's Netanyahu brings his dirty laundry to Washington. Literally. Most politicians go to great lengths to conceal their dirty laundry. And then there's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
This story is funny.
Over the years, the Israeli leader has developed a reputation among the staff at the U.S. President's guest house for bringing special cargo on his trips to Washington. Bags and suitcases full of dirty laundry, according to U.S. officials familiar with the matter.
Is that just is that like a flex? Is that like a flex? Like, I'm going to come to your fucking White House and you're going to do my dirty laundry. Is that like a weird flex?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of a power grab. It's like, look what I have. Look how much control I have over Donald Trump.
Wash my fucking underwear.
Like, I make this fucking guy wash my underwear. Like, this got more attention than the Politico article that came out about them spying on Trump through.
Like Israel spying on them?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh, well, in my opinion, this one's more interesting.
This one's funnier.
Yeah.
All right. We are coming at an hour and 30
we
minutes.
somehow plowed through an hour and 30 minutes thinking that we were just going to do an hour because it's fucking late. But wow.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us for another episode of Bro History. It's always very much appreciated. If you want to support us, you can rate and review our podcast. If you're on Apple, rate and review. Give it a 5-star review. It helps us tremendously. And if you want to join our Patreon is Patreon at Bro History. That will be at the link that will be in the show notes. We put extra content on there. And then we also have a Slack community that we're building. We've got a lot of people who joined over the past week or so.
A lot of conversations, too.
A lot of conversations. It's popping off. We got people from all political affiliations.
And from all over the world.
All over the world, from the U.S. to Australia to England to Iceland to everywhere. Everyone's debating. Everyone has stuff to say. It's the greatest philosophy discussion of all time. It's not like that. It's not that pretentious, but it's fun. It's always I would encourage people to join it. You can join it for just $1 bill a month. All right. Anything else?
Nope. Peace.
Peace.